Thank you, Matt, and welcome back, everyone. As Matt Bristow-Smith said, my name is Patrick Miller. I currently serve as the Superintendent of Greene County Schools. I also serve as the Chair of the North Carolina Professional Educator Preparation and Standards Commission, better known as PEPSC. You've heard it referenced in earlier sessions today. And in my role as the Chair of PEPSC, I've been fortunate enough to participate in some work with the North Carolina Human Capital Roundtable over the past several years. We wanted to provide you with an update on that work today, but more importantly, gather feedback from you regarding some of the challenges that our PEPSC subcommittees are facing as we grapple with revisioning the licensure process here in the state. And helping me today, I have four colleagues from PEPSC. To my immediate left, Dr. Van Dempsey, the Dean of the Watson College of Education at UNC Wilmington, and he serves as the co-chair of the Preparation and Entry Subcommittee. Next, Dr. Wesley Wood, Assistant Superintendent of Personnel and Human Resources for Wilkes County Schools and the co-chair of the Licensure Subcommittee. Beside Dr. Wood, Dr. Anthony Graham. He is the Provost of Winston-Salem State University, and he serves as the co-chair of the Budget and Compensation Subcommittee. And last but not least, Mrs. Maureen Stover. She is the 2020 Burroughs Wellcome Fund North Carolina Teacher of the Year and 2021 finalist for National Teacher of the Year, and she serves as the co-chair of the Advancement and Development Subcommittee. We also have with us several members from our PEPSC team at DPI, Dr. Tom Tomberlin, Dr. Kimberly Evans, and Dr. Andrew Seiberg, and we thank them for being with us. Now some background information on the licensure reform work. The Human Capital Roundtable was made up of about a dozen people from the University of North Carolina system, North Carolina Independent Colleges and Universities, the Governor's Office, North Carolina DPI, the State Board of Education, PEPSC, and Best NC. And one of the goals of the Human Capital Roundtable was to develop ways to keep great teachers in the classroom and to attract highly qualified, diverse candidates into the profession. We believe one of the fastest paths to achieving this goal was through modifying the teacher licensure process to one that is outcomes-based and treats teachers like professionals, with rapid career acceleration and paid professional advancement opportunities without them leaving the classroom. And you heard that stressed in the session with Brenda Berg and Superintendent Truitt. The Human Capital Roundtable developed a framework and presented it to the State Board of Education in February of 2021. The State Board remanded the work to PEPSC to build out the model and to bring recommendations back to the State Board. The framework is called Pathways to Excellence for Teaching Professionals, and you should be able to see it on your screen. If not, it's on page 9 in your program. This graphic has the basic ideas behind our work. The overarching goal, again, was to create an outcomes-based licensure system rather than continuing to rely on the current model, which is more input-based. Effectiveness of the teacher is not considered in the current model. Our model would also get teachers to significantly higher levels of salary much faster in their careers. The model would also allow those teachers to advance in the profession, again, without having to enter administration. The proposed professional advancement account will provide for professional development for new and developing educators. We all know the lack of funding for professional development has been a challenge for all educators in the last 10 years, especially lateral entry and now residency candidates. So if you will look at the graphic on page 9 or on the screen, you can follow along with me. So we believe in opening the gates wide to the profession early on, allowing anyone with a bachelor's degree to enter. So in a nutshell, there are 4 proposed license levels in what we call the entry-level progression: the learning permit or the apprentice license, License 1, License 2, and License 3. License 1 and 2 align more with what we now call residency, and License 3 would be where most traditionally prepared teachers would begin. There is also a new proposed license, again, for apprentice teachers, and apprentices were discussed in the panel just before the lunch break, so that's exciting work there. And just a quick note, the apprentices would work under the supervision of a License 4 teacher while they themselves were working toward License 1. Then briefly, License 1, you must hold a bachelor's degree, you must be paired with an advanced mentor, and you will receive a professional advancement account to personalize your pathway to effectiveness. License 2, you must demonstrate mastery of content or pedagogy by completing requirements from a menu of options. Notice I said menu. Required assessments, completing approved micro-credentials or other approved processes. Increased salary and professional development account will accompany this license. License 3, you demonstrate mastery of content and pedagogy. Again, you're paired with an advanced mentor. You receive an increased salary and a professional advancement account. Please note that traditionally prepared candidates should land here. So you should come straight out of an EPP, Educator Prep program, into License 3, which would have a much higher salary than the starting level now, if everything goes according to plan. From there, the goal is to demonstrate effectiveness for at least 3 out of 5 years to earn the License 4, which is considered the expert teacher. These teachers would have a competitive professional salary. For those who still want to achieve more and get paid more, there are 2 more levels proposed: the advanced teacher for classroom excellence and the advanced teacher adult leadership. Under this model, we believe that North Carolina wins for a number of reasons. Number one, we believe the model restores the respect that the profession deserves. We also believe that it removes many barriers that would allow for a more diverse quality teaching force. And we believe it will entice more young professionals, career switchers, and potentially out-of-staters to teaching. And if implemented, North Carolina would be the first state in the nation to innovate in an outcomes-based licensure model. So I admit that was a very brief and inadequate overview of the model, but at this time I'm going to turn it over to the subcommittee chairs to provide a brief overview of their work over the past 9 or 10 months before we jump into breakout rooms. So we'll start with Dr. Dempsey.
Thank you, Patrick. First of all, it's an honor to be here and be able to participate in this conversation. I want to recognize Hank Weddington, who's my co-chair in the Preparation and Entry Subcommittee, the subcommittee itself, and the folks from DPI who have supported us as we've done this work. I want to say, by way of starting this is heavy lifting. This is not an easy task. It's complex, and it should be. We're talking about the teaching profession. We're talking about what we consider to be the most important profession we have in North Carolina. So that complexity and the heavy lifting that I just referenced is something we take quite seriously on the subcommittee. I do want to say I come to this, and my remarks are, my day job is a Dean of Education at UNC Wilmington, and in with several of the traditional preparation programs. So I'll share very quickly some of the key decision points, here's where we are themes for the Preparation and Entry Subcommittee, and what some of the challenges have been for us. One is the transition and the moving from thinking about preparation and entry as a matter of credentials, as a matter of the accumulation of what we talked about as proxies in the subcommittee, to performance. How do we start to think about what we're looking for in terms of the practice that we might see out of a person who moves through the licensure pathways that Patrick just referenced. In order to give that framing, we have arrived at using the INTASC standards, Interstate Teacher Assessment Support Consortium standards, which are a national set of standards. We talk about that being the DNA of the profession, because if you look at many of our structures that we have in professional pathways in the teaching profession, you'll see INTASC at the core of that. So moving toward competencies, using INTASC language as the framing language. focusing on how we understand the balance between evidence of application, that a person can go into a classroom, engage in teaching practice in ways that meet an expected standard of practice, coupled with evidence of impact, that because of that practice, we see something positive happening for learners who are in that classroom. And so we're in the process right now of figuring out how we frame that language, build around in task that captures that balance. The next part is how we understand the licensure levels in terms of minimum expectations if you hold that license. That while we want to open up the pathways that Patrick just talked about, we want to make sure that a person can go in and meet an expected minimum standard of practice to be in a classroom with students, and in some cases with a lead teacher or a mentor teacher. The minimum practice would be based on that framework that we just talked about within task, and then that minimum practice would be part of a progression. How does the person move through a career? How does the person move through differentiation and professional status according to license, so that their license, so they're moving toward a more complex and deeper and richer understanding of professional practice. Another critical part of what we have discussed is the idea that licenses are not permanent. You don't become license 3 and stay there the rest of your life. You're not in license 1 and you're there forever. That this is about moving toward license 4 and preferably beyond that. And then the last thing that I'll share is the importance of the progression, understanding what are the increasingly complex, richer, deeper understandings of the knowledge, skills, and dispositions we expect of a teacher, how that's applied in practice, and how we see in evidence from learners that the teacher is having the impact that we would expect a teacher to have at the different licensure levels.
Okay, Dr. Wood.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I also appreciate the opportunity to be here this afternoon representing many of our HR colleagues on the PEPS Commission. I'd like to also thank Ms. Ann Bullock from Elon University. She's our co-chair on our committee, and just thank all the subcommittee members for putting all their time, energy, and effort joining us each month for our meetings. I know it's a huge commitment. But I was just reflecting on the drive in this morning. I was just thinking about licensure as a whole. This is my 23rd year in education, but I've only been in this position for 7 years in HR and personnel. And Ms. Alvera's out in our audience this morning. We've worked closely together before, but licensure has been a huge challenge for school districts. There's a young lady in our HR department who started working for Wilkes County Schools when she was in her early 20s, and she's now in her late 30s, and she has done nothing but licensure her whole career there with the Wilkes County Schools. And to be honest, we have many conversations each week about different teachers and situations, because really licensure has become so comprehensive and confusing. And if she's been doing that for those many years, just think about our new folks working in our school districts, how challenging it is for them. And I was thinking also about our work with the PEPS Commission when I first came on board. We spent many months looking at licensure 001 and trying to figure out, how can we eliminate barriers. Each month we were amending policies, we were submitting those to the state board for review, consideration, and approval. And really what it has boiled down to is that every time we have made a change, it was due to a licensure exam. And as we've talked on the PEPS Commission and even our subcommittee, there's very little research that truly correlates a licensure exam with how effective a teacher is. So I think our whole task is to try to provide a menu of options that teachers can demonstrate credentials, performance around content and pedagogy to advance, particularly from the beginning years as a teacher, a beginning teacher in the areas of licensure 2 and 3 to licensure 4, and give those teachers options to consider as they advance. So as Van said, this is very, very comprehensive. In our subcommittee, we have talked to experts from Kentucky and Arkansas who have similar models somewhat, but other than that, there's not a state that I'm aware of out there who's taken on the task as big as what we are. So just to kind of talk about our subcommittee a little bit, we spent some time really trying to define our role and what our role is as a subcommittee. And so far that has been to try to come to some sort of agreement on measures that can be put in place in the licensure model that the other subcommittees and us as a whole can consider as we move forward. Those measures may be micro-credentials to student surveys and so forth, which I'm going to talk about in our breakout sessions a little bit. But one of our biggest challenges, I think, will be is to, one, work together as a group to determine where those measures may fit in the model, and then also, two, to determine what they actually will be measuring in the areas of content and pedagogy. But I think we've come a long way in a short amount of time. I know from talking with the other states, they have spent months and months and months, of work and have the backpedal and so forth. So we've come a long way, I think, as a whole, as a PEPS commission and the subcommittees on this work.
Right. Dr. Graham.
Good afternoon. Very honored to be here this afternoon and honored to represent the Budget and Compensation Subcommittee. I have a fantastic co-chair, Dr. Aaron Fleming, who's the superintendent of Harnett County Schools. And we've had a fantastic, phenomenal subcommittee membership. We've done a lot of work in a very short period of time, and I jokingly refer to us as the lightning rod committee. Once you start talking about compensation and salary, everybody pays attention. And no matter what decisions you make, there will be lightning rods. So we accept it. Given that, and I do want to recognize our colleagues at DPI, Dr. Kim Evans, Andrew Seiberg, Tom Tomberlin, Andy Baxter. They've been fantastic with supporting this work as we've really pontificated what makes the most sense to do, and not doing something in a random happenstance way, but doing it in a very evidence-based, data-informed, data-driven way. So our subcommittee has thought through the Pathways to Excellence framework and established minimum salary levels per license level. Let me share with you our findings and what we're recommending. And again, these are recommendations, and I'm going to look at my document here because I don't want to misquote anything. At the learning permit level, the minimum salary level that we're recommending is $30,000. At the license 1 level, the minimum level salary is $38,000. At the license 2 level, the minimum salary is $40,000. At the license 3 level, it's $45,000. At the license 4, $56,000. And then the advanced teacher roles. So if the classroom excellence advanced teacher role is the license 4 plus a 10% supplement. And at the advanced teacher adult leadership role, license 4 plus 30% supplement. So these are the minimum levels that we are recommending as a subcommittee. Additionally, we've paid attention to what will it take to help an individual at the license 1, license 2, and license 3 level move to the license 4 level. And we've been challenged with coming up with a recommendation in terms of an account, a professional advancement account amount that would assist said individual. So we have established as a committee a recommendation of $2,500 per level per person. So if you're at the license 1 and you need to make your way all the way through license 3 to eventually achieve license 4, you would have access to $7,500 total over that time span. This is an amazing recommendation. I'm a former lateral entry teacher. I wish there would have been dollars available to help me take college classes, to help me with licensure exams, to help me with mentor teachers and so forth. I had no access to any of the above, and if I did, it was on my own dollar and my own dime. So the mere thought that we are considering a professional advancement account that would support individuals to the license 4 is amazing in and of itself. This has been a heavy lift, but I am encouraged by what we're attempting to do here and the benefit that I see it having on the retention of teachers long-term and the recruitment of new teachers into the profession. Having said that, we're still challenged with a few things and looking forward to engaging in conversation this afternoon. The hold harmless provision. How do we make certain that a teacher's salary is not impacted in a negative way? Giving thought to national board certification, individuals who are coming from out of state into the state of North Carolina. We have to think through all of those pieces as we give thought to the work that we're doing as a budget and compensation subcommittee. But again, to get to this point in in about 9 or 10 months, working entirely virtually, by the way, is amazing in and of itself. So I'll stop there.
Thank you, and just want to point out, you heard the salary number for the license number 3, $45,000. That's for people, designed for folks coming out of the EPPs that we would say are traditionally prepared. So that is a $10,000 increase over what a graduate from an EPP right now would come into the profession with. So I think don't lose sight of those numbers. And again, they're just recommendations. But anyway, Ms. Stover.
And I am Maureen Stover, and I have the pleasure of working with the Advancement and Development Subcommittee along with Dr. Michael Maher. And as the practicing classroom teacher of the group, I really enjoyed having an opportunity to work on this project and to be part of this process. Because, we have 1.5 million kids in our classrooms in North Carolina. And in order for us to do what we need to do for those kids, we must have effective teachers in front of them. So I'm really excited about this work because this work helps us ensure that we do get those effective teachers and effective practitioners in every single classroom with each of our students, so that when they leave our pre-K-12 public education system, they're empowered to live their best life because of the public education that they received in North Carolina. And I think that it is a heavy lift, as my colleagues have already mentioned, but it's a heavy lift that is so worth the effort and is so worth all of the conversations and the discussions and the honing down to the best answers, because we are doing what we need to do for the kids in our state, which means we're doing what we need to do for the future of our state. So for our subcommittee, what we were really looking at was the competencies that would be required for teachers to move from each one of the licensure levels. And as we started doing this work, what we really wanted to look at was ensuring that each one of those competencies, number one, could be measured and was performance-based, and number two, could be directly linked to impact on student performance. We wanted to see positive student performance. As we've already heard a little bit with preparation and entry, one of the things we have looked at is removing testing as a barrier, or removing testing as a requirement, because we do know that that's a barrier. So we all know that there are effective teachers right now who are in our classrooms, who are moving students, who are connecting with their students, who are incredible practitioners, however, for a variety of different reasons are struggling to pass the praxis and therefore are in jeopardy of not being able to stay in a classroom. So we wanted to ensure that there were other ways for us to measure effectiveness with students, to ensure that the teachers that are the best teachers to be in our classrooms are the ones who get to remain. Testing would still, of course, remain one of the options to be a licensed teacher, but there would be other measures and competencies that we would be looking at in order to help inform which people should be in our classrooms with our kids. As we kind of looked at our work, we broke it down based on each one of the different licensure levels that you can see up on your screen. And beginning with that level 1 and 2, we thought that at that level, teachers would need to be aware of the competencies and be beginning to practice those and working with master teachers in order to have an opportunity to really start honing their skills and becoming an effective teacher. At the level 3, they would be demonstrating those competencies. As they move into level 4, they would be effectively or consistently demonstrating those competencies. And as they move into the advanced teacher classroom level, they would be highly effective at demonstrating those competencies. And then as they move into the advanced teacher adult level, they would be highly effective at demonstrating those competencies, and they would also be able to model and mentor other teachers in the effective and best practices in order to instruct children. And so as a classroom teacher, this makes me really excited because I am that teacher that loves being in a classroom. I am that teacher that looks for opportunities to continue to grow and to continue to lead. And I don't want to be an administrator. I want to stay a classroom teacher. And so I think that this is going to be incredibly impactful for the teachers in North Carolina that are looking for additional leadership roles, the teachers in North Carolina that want to have opportunities to lead their colleagues, to share their expertise and to share their best practices with their colleagues, and to be able to do that while still having the opportunity to work with students every day as practicing classroom teachers.
Great. So at this point, we'll now transition into breakout rooms around the subcommittees. So please choose a breakout room to further explore a topic that a co-chair just outlined. And to recap, Dr. Dempsey is the co-chair of the Preparation and Entry Subcommittee. Dr. Wood co-chairs Licensure. Dr. Graham co-chairs Budget and Compensation. And Mrs. Stover co-chairs Advancement and Development. So we will begin to transition to breakouts. Thanks.